Hi, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Alec.
and this is Sarah Offstage, where we talk about theater experiences and events in Southern California and beyond. We got to see The Phantom of the Opera at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood.
For the handful of people that have never heard of Phantom of the Opera, the story, very briefly, is there's this phantom that is terrorizing this one theater, and the owners basically, with threats of violence, actual violence, and other terrible things, in order for them to enact the specific changes that he wants made to certain plays, all to benefit Christine and to boost her career because the Phantom is very unhealthily obsessed with Christine and she does not return that. And there's a lot of conflict that then happens from that itself.
We come to understand why he is the way he is. Yeah, and that also an element of Christine not sharing the Phantom's feelings for her because he kind of recruits her for his plans under false pretenses. She really believes that he is this angel of music sent by her father, who she cared deeply about, who has since passed, and finding out that he's the angel of music, but he's not really the angel of music. I feel like really seeing Christine struggle with overcoming her fear of the Phantom was interesting to me. They kind of come up with this plan in order to draw the Phantom out in order to try to stop him, capture him, etc. But they need Christine to be part of that plan because they know that the Phantom will be drawn out by Christine's presence. And Christine doesn't want to do it, you know? Like, and it's understandable. She's afraid of him, but she's able to find the strength to go through with their plan in order to see the Phantom, I guess, in their minds, brought to justice in some way. Christine, in all her hatred and fear and anger towards the Phantom, still manages to summon a last moment of compassion for the Phantom, which is able to bring him down from the edge, so to speak, and make him rethink his actions and rethink his own humanity and compassion for a moment, which is what saves their lives.
Yeah, in terms of pacing, it I think it's good. I feel like there's a lot at the beginning where we're jumping around, but that's just the nature of how it was written because we start in like the present day and then we have to go past, we have to establish like the theater. um it is, I don't know, I haven't decided if it's good or bad. There's a lot of just unbroken like musical numbers of the fake play that they're putting on in the play. Like they let that run for like 3 4 minutes.
The operas,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's cool musical numbers. It does kind of slow it down a bit from the actual story of Phantom.
Mhm. I really like the very beginning, the like almost frame narrative aspect of like we're starting when the opera house is like, closed down and they're auctioning off, pieces from its heyday, I guess. And I really like that because we have that really cool moment where the chandelier like comes out and flies up. And I think that that also plays into aspects I like about the set in terms of pieces of the set like reforming to their prior places and stuff, which is really cool. I'm not going to get into the set yet, but in terms of like pacing, this was my first time seeing Phantom live ever,
Mhm.
and it's the same for you, I
Yeah,
believe. Yeah.
before this I'd only seen the Gerard Butler movie.
Right, which is a little different. The pacing was interesting for me. I agree. For some reason, the first act feels almost simultaneously fast and slow. I don't know how to describe it. I think it's because the setup for the Phantom, like essentially luring Christine to his lair, Happens pretty quickly, I feel like. The whole Angel music setup is pretty fast, but I think it does get slowed down by the extended opera scenes, which I don't think are bad. They like really give the actors a chance to shine in terms of like operatic, ability. The singing is fantastic, and I think a lot of comedy comes from those scenes as well.
Yeah.
I don't dislike them, but I do agree that they slow the pace down from the main, like, core story of Phantom, the story between the Phantom, Christine, and Rao. But Act 2, I said this to you after we saw it, that I thought Act 2 was so, like, tight, and I really felt like I got into it in Act 2. I think that the point of no return scene near the end with the trio singing together, that was my favorite part of the whole show because I feel like they sound so nice together just to begin with. Like they sound great together, but also it's such a like moment that the intensity has built to. We have this like simmering tension of like the Phantom is getting more violent, and we know that this plan to lure him out, he ends up taking Christine anyway. We know that that final pinnacle of like what is going to happen between these three people is coming, and I feel like that song just does such a great job of building the suspense and tension until we reach that climax. I just think Act 2 not only does it have a lot of like iconic songs from the musical, but I think it's just there is less room to breathe and more like this fast pace that it's like things are ramping up in the story and also like we're ramping up in the musical. Like it's just gonna keep going until the end, which I really like. I love being in the theater and feeling like this build of tension where I'm like, oh, something's happening, something's gonna happen, and I'm just like waiting for it, and like I'm like holding my breath without even realizing it. And I feel like this second act of Phantom really gave me that feeling.
Well, because there's really only one operatic section that we were talking about earlier that slows it down in the second act. But a unique framing of that one specifically is it's the Phantom's play that they're using to lure him out. So you have that tension, like you're saying. You're watching a play that ultimately doesn't matter in terms of the story, but it does because we know the Phantom is going to be there somewhere.
Mhm.
He's going to show up at a certain point, and you're just watching this play within a play, waiting for that moment.
That, and then it kind of turns from that operatic portion of his show into Point of No Return, like the beginning of that song, where it's just the Phantom and Christine, because we start to realize through the choreography and through the way it's sung that Christine realizes that the person that she's singing to and dancing with is the Phantom now. She knows. So it's kind of like how is she going to react to that? How is she going to move cautiously, but also still drawing him in for the plan? And that was really interesting to me. Do you want to just talk about the set then? Because we've been talking about it.
We've alluded to it enough. I think we should just jump into the
Mm.
set design.
I just love seeing something with a real set.
Oh yeah.
I feel like a lot of shows recently that I've seen have been on the more like minimalist side. I think partially it's a stylistic choice, but also I think it's a financial choice as well. I think it's hard to run a show right now, clearly, financially, for a lot of different reasons. So cutting set and things like that are probably, I would say, maybe one of the easiest choices. And that's not to say that minimalist productions can't be great. They truly can. But I miss seeing things with giant sets and effects and like grandeur. And this kind of like scratched that itch for me just because there's so many like moving parts. I mentioned at the beginning we're in the present day, and then the chandelier flies up and suddenly we're back in time. But not just the chandelier, like the
Everything.
entire set, everything starts to like go back into place the way it was before it's been left in ruins. But not just that, there's so many sets in this and they're gorgeous, like they're beautiful. I don't know what your favorite was. My favorite was the rooftop with the horse and angel statue, that literally moves to show that the Phantom's been listening to Christine and Raoul profess their love to one another this whole time. He's been there. He's always there.
The
um,
boat scene
mhm,
is, I was trying to think about it, probably the favorite if I had to pick one.
mhm,
The whole going down into the depths might be my favorite use of the set design because they have a scaffolding in the back that before they've used as like part of the set and the fake like theater, like because all the theaters have a scaffolding. But with the lighting change and fog and stuff, suddenly it becomes like a kind of sewer system that they're traveling between, and it keeps lowering very slowly as they're going across it to show that you're going down into the depths of the city, down to the Phantom's lair. You get to the boat scene. Candles actually rise up out of little cutouts in the set all at the same time. So you almost have this glowing orange sea of fog, and it's all timed to go down so the boat doesn't hit it. There's so much technically happening, and it's just great because then when they get to his actual lair, they slide in the chandeliers, and suddenly you're like there.
mhm,
And with that happening, with probably the most famous song of the show playing at the same time,
mhm,
it's like the pinnacle of the show because that's a song everyone knows. And you're going down to the Phantom's Lair for the first time. They really bring everything to that.
mhm. I also really loved the costumes in this. I liked how detailed and ornate they were, and there were so many scenes with different costumes.
A lot of costume changes.
Yeah, which I really have an appreciation for. Like, I think it's really beautiful. Even like the ballet dancers that get put on when the Phantom is messing things up in the opera house. So they have to cut to the ballet very quickly, and even just like ensemble costumes like that were gorgeous. And Masquerade looked so good.
Masquerade was something I also wanted to talk about from even a costume and a set perspective.
Okay, yeah.
To, I guess, act as a transition point between the two topics. Like, they pad the set, which is just a giant staircase with kind of like a forced perspective that goes up and then kind of to the left. I didn't realize it at first. They actually tricked me because they don't have enough ensemble to like fill out the staircase. There are just stationary mannequins that are on the edges. And when they're all standing there, you can't tell. But then when they like start moving and some obviously don't move, you're like, "Oh, that's a mannequin." But they interact kind of throughout the set. Some of the ensemble will like go up to the fake people and like act like you're having a conversation and stuff like that. And the specifically the Phantom's masquerade costume, it was trippy in a good way. We were kind of far back. I was trying to get as many details as I could. Was it basically just a skull mask that also moved its mouth?
Yeah, he's like a full skeleton with a big hat and feather plume. Yeah.
It was so trippy seeing like just a skull face, but the mouth actually moving with the dialogue. I don't know how they did that. I wasn't close enough to see any of the details, but like I don't know if it was actually somehow kind of connected to his jaw and he
Mhm.
was like actually exaggerating movements or if they had like someone else in there that would like control the mouth, but it was scary, which he was trying to be in that scene.
Mhm.
So it really does work.
But also he literally like disappears and reappears at another spot on
Oh,
stage. Like
true.
there's so many like effects in this that I'm like, whoa, it happens so fast that I'm like, am I seeing things? I start to feel like I'm losing it like Christine a little bit. I totally get where she's coming from because there's some crazy stuff in here that he does. There's also the cemetery scene, which is also a beautiful set, and that's honestly one of my favorite moments in the show is Christine's song, about her father and missing him. But then the Phantom just kind of comes out of nowhere,
He's
basically.
there the whole
Yeah,
time.
he's like inside the cross of the
He's
cemetery.
got like a cape that is this like camo pattern of the cross on top of the cemetery, his back turned, and he's just stationary for like minutes on end until they leave and he
Mhm.
turns around to reveal he's there the whole time.
Yeah. And then he, I don't even know. This is a whole nother discussion about like, is the Phantom really a phantom or is he a really smart guy? Because he literally shoots like lasers and stuff basically
We have
out of his out
pyrotechnics
of his
in this
cane.
show.
Yeah. It jump scared me. I didn't expect it. And there's fire, like it was crazy.
That's one of the best reveals, I think. Not that there's many in the show, but like the ending to that scene where he does summon this like wall of fire on the stage, but it illuminates the gravestone that he's been standing on top of, which has been like dark the whole time. You see the last name Dae, and like the Phantom is standing on top of it, which is, you know, symbolism. But it's kind of showing with the fire, you get this very like evil-esque kind of picture of it, and some of the stuff kind of just culminates into that one moment before we move on with the rest.
Yeah, I think the fire also, like, he's so angry in that moment, that, like, oh, we know he's gonna he's gonna plot something violent next.
It's
We're
gonna
like,
do something
it's
crazy.
scary, yeah, like, it's genuinely scary. There were moments in this where they panned the sound around different parts of the theater for when the Phantom is, like, ominously speaking to everyone in the opera house, which was also scary and well done, and it took me off guard. I was like, "Where is he? He's behind me. No, he's over there." It was really cool. I feel like a lot of musicals that I've seen don't super utilize, like, panning necessarily. I think it worked really well for this one, though, because he's supposed to be, like, omnipresent and multiple places at once.
Yeah, the first time it happens, it starts like behind you. So I don't know, going to see other plays, sometimes the actors will be in the aisles and stuff for the audience, so you like almost have a reaction where you're like, is he actually there? And then he's not because he's everywhere.
Mm.
And then they start near the end. There's the one where it just 360 pans all the way around, like constantly.
I really like the scene in the manager's office with the managers and Christine and Raul, Madame Giry and Carlotta, and like they're all having like their own conversations and arguments with each other about what to do about the Phantom presenting his opera and saying, you guys got to do it or you're going to regret it. I thought that it was really well done, like, the staging of it looked really good because people are moving around, there's, like, a frantic energy to it, but also, like, there's all these different, like, arguments and conversations going on, and I was, like, mesmerized by it. I thought it was really good. Were there any standout performances for you?
Obviously, the big three of the Phantom, Christine, Raoul, played by Isaiah Bailey, Jordan Lee Gilbert, and Daniel Lopez, respectively.
I feel that Isaiah Bailey's Phantom, he brings an element to it through his voice and acting that you really feel that the Phantom is like troubled. He's a troubled person who's been through a lot of bad things, but he's also very intelligent. And I think he clearly struggles a lot with, you know, wanting to be like treated as a regular person, but knowing from his past that, society won't accept him, he kind of doubles down on that resentment for that. And that leads to a lot of his problems. He feels like this is the only way for him to like give his art to the world and things like that, is through violence and force, because violence and force has been used on him. Jordan Lee Gilbert and Daniel Lopez also, I thought, were fantastic. Jordan Lee Gilbert has a beautiful voice. It seems like she's done a lot of opera from what I understand before this, but I found her vocals to be beautiful as Christine, but also I found her acting to be really good as well. Like I said, I was very convinced and I was with her for what feels like a very harrowing experience for Christine. And I think Daniel Lopez was honestly a standout for me as Raoul. I think Raoul can sometimes maybe get lost in the background because he's not as much of a big character as like the Phantom, but I feel his Rao was very like warm and grounding, and I understood the warmth and care and love between him and Christine very well through his performance. Also, I wanted to highlight Lisa Vroman as Madame Giry, who I thought was fantastic and is a former Christine from Broadway. So I'm sure she understands the show very well. And I really like the pipeline of going from playing Christine to Madame Giry. I think it's interesting, but I found her interesting because Madame Giry can come off as a bit cold, but once you kind of understand her situation, and that she knows about the Phantom and everything, I feel that she was able to portray her in a way that once you understand her better, she feels more compassionate. I feel like pretty much a majority of where you can choose to sit in the Pantages is like a good seat. We were in the mezzanine, the front section of the mezzanine, but on the far left. And I don't feel like I had any issues with sight lines for the show. I
No.
was kind of worried about it. I dislike that the Pantages uses Ticketmaster because it's Ticketmaster and they made it really difficult to get tickets for a reasonable price, but also I, issues with like accounts and things like that. It was just difficult, but I waited, and I shouldn't have waited so long to get our tickets for it, but I waited thinking, I would be able to get some closer to the showtime. I would suggest, if you're going through a theater that uses Ticketmaster, just to buy them early if you want to go and if you're able to, because the tickets just keep raising in price, and also there are tons of tickets that were resale tickets
Yeah.
that presumably were bought by scalpers, entire rows in some cases. So the options in terms of seating were kind of limited for us just due to me wanting to find seats where the sight lines were pretty good and not really knowing because I hadn't seen the show, but also within, my personal budget, orchestra seats, unless they were on the very, very far sides or very, very back, were kind of out of budget for me. But if you do want to sit in the mezzanine, at least at the Pantages, the sides should be okay as long as you're not all the way next to the doors on the sides. But I really like the Pantages Theater itself. Not only is it a beautiful theater, but also I never have any issues with audio there. I can hear everything perfectly, and I feel as though the mezzanine, even the back mezzanine, is not too far away in order to see the show. We sat in the back mezzanine to see Les Mis at one point, and there were no issues. I didn't have any problems. I didn't get anything, but it looked like there was a lot of cool merch. They had little Phantom and Christine teddy bears, t-shirts, fans. It looked like they had a record. I don't know which cast recording it was, but they had some jewelry, a lot of really cool stuff. I would say maybe try to get your merch early. Intermission is crazy. So either maybe before or if you have time after the show to grab something, that's when I would suggest doing it. But I feel that the merch was pretty much standard fare is what I would expect to see from Phantom of the Opera merch. Would you recommend seeing Phantom of the Opera on tour?
Completely.
I would
Thumbs up.
also.
Loved it. Great show to see.
Great show. I would see it again in the future. I would love to check out Masquerade, which is the immersive one running in New York right now. I feel like that's like the next evolution of Phantom. But this is a great production. They don't, skimp out on any of the effects. The chandelier is there. It does fall. Really great show. Would recommend seeing it. If you liked a review today, you can give us a thumbs up, a like. You can also subscribe to our channel for more reviews. You can also find us on Instagram where we post photos from what we're seeing as well as reels that highlight quick thoughts on the shows that we see. You can find us there at Sarah Offstage, SARA.